We have to be honest with ourselves. Okay, this culture makes me uncomfortable. I don't understand them fully. And you have to make the intentional choice to say, I want to learn.
Welcome and thank you if you're joining us for this series. It's about our minds and our emotions because of what we've been through for months. We all know what this pandemic has done, has isolated us, and we've gone through ups and downs, and we've wondered like how and who can help us. And most of you, our friends and church folks, have come to us with questions, and we've felt you and have heard your questions and have gone to people who really can help us answer some of these questions. And today I am so glad I am with Sena from Safe Harbor. This is a counseling organization. These are folks that come to church with us. They are good friends, and I am so grateful that they have offered their service just to share with us. And today, we are talking about another very important subject, which is about race and tensions and all that we have seen on TV. Parents have shared with us, kids, if you're a parent, kids have come to you with questions of what they see on TV and how to react to all this. Today, we have a friend who will help us with those questions and give us some answers and guide us in how we can speak to kids and how we can deal with it in our day-to-day life. So welcome, Senara. I'm so glad you are willing to do this with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here and to be able to talk to you about this topic. I'm just honored to be able to connect with you, your ministry. You guys are doing amazing work and changing so many lives. So it's really a pleasure to be here with you today. Yes, you are saying my name correctly. It's Sana. It's Arabic, so good job.
Thank you.
So telling a little bit about my background. So I am from New York. I moved to Maryland and I work as a therapist. So I'm a licensed counseling professional or certified professional counselor. Man, I should really know this. Licensed certified professional counselor. It's alphabet soup, okay? In New York, I'm an LMHC, which is a licensed mental health counselor. But essentially, for the average person, what that means is I work with people on mental health issues. I work with parents, families, kids, relationships. We talk about everything. So in one word, I'm a therapist.
Thank you for that and for being here with us. And we'll just jump right into the very first questions of when parents have shared with us that their kids have gone to them and asked questions about what they see, like about the protest and about the racial tensions that is around the country. And some have not known how to talk and what to say to their kids and all the anxieties they feel. So can you help us with that kind of question?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely something that's coming up in a lot of the people that I see, not just in my work, but also in my ministry. And a lot of people are seeing all of the things that are happening with politics and with countries and racial conflicts. And there's so many emotions on this topic. But not just that, there's so many different perspectives because a child that grows up in America is going to have one view, but someone from another country. So my parents, my mother is from Trinidad and my father is from Pakistan, and they're no longer together, but their views on race and religion are very different. And so their advice, their view to me is going to be very different as someone who grew up in a place like Queens, New York, which is one of the most diverse places on earth. And so there are topics that we can discuss that we'll have similarities, but there will also be many differences. And how do we navigate that? The way that we even handle it, kind of like with the civil rights movement. Do you go with nonviolence, or do you say we have to fight for what we want? There's always going to be these different views. And sometimes when we're seeing these things happen, we're acting out of the emotion. We're acting out of the frustration, or we're acting out of our own bias. And so I can say that as parents, it's going to be really important for you to talk to your kids and hear their perspective, just to hear what they think about it, what they know. Sometimes they're very influenced, not even by facts, just by what they're hearing, the emotional opinions of people on social media, or their friends that are talking about these topics and share their own perspective, right? Or if you have an intimate relationship, like, of course, someone that has had a child or a family member that has been racially profiled, let's say, by our police force, that person is going to have a very different view about how we can remain nonviolent when we're confronted in a situation like that, right? And rightfully so, because you've had an intimate experience, right? So it's
Right.
easy for someone else that hasn't experienced that to say, no, it's okay, just, cooperate when you get pulled over. But that's
Yeah.
not always the right answer. So the most important thing for both sides, for parents and for kids, no matter what they're seeing, it's important for us to have a common conversation, just to hear the perspectives and be able to come to this place of understanding. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Share more about your own background and how you've dealt with some of these, just growing up in Queens and in New York, and the difference of your mom and dad. How has that helped you prepare you to deal with these kind of tensions?
So I said earlier, my parents are no longer together, and they weren't since I was very young. I had a stepfather who was also from Trinidad, but my cultural background is very interesting because I grew up in New York. I grew up in America. And so our view of the world is very, very different. I haven't experienced the things that my parents talk about, right? And so one of the things that really shaped me was being able to grow up in a place like Queens that is so diverse, because you're exposed to so many different cultures.
Hmm.
So I have best friends that are Korean,
Yeah.
Haitian, and I get to experience their culture, their background, in such an intimate way. Like, think about when you go to a food restaurant. You
Yeah.
can go to like an authentic Mexican restaurant, or
Right.
you can go to Taco Bell. And the experience is very different of the same thing. And sometimes we don't have that intimate and that authentic connection to cultures or even religions, and we don't understand it. We don't get to see the beauty in that culture and in that person, in that
Yeah.
race, because we're not exposed to it. And so one of the things that I love about my background is the fact that I had that chance to be in a place where I can see the authentic cultures and I can meet people and understand people. And so it was funny because coming out of a place like that and visiting places or hearing people's perspective of growing up in places that are very I wanted to say monotheistic, but looking for a word, like just one culture,
Yes. Right.
one
Monoculture.
type of people, or sometimes we do that. We segregate ourselves. We stay around our own. And when you grow up in a place like that and you come out, your view and how you accept and understand others, it's it's so different. And I wish everyone could have that experience. Um, But to go back to like how I feel prepared for this, another thing is understanding what it means, what race means from a spiritual perspective, and how as Christians we don't segregate, we don't divide ourselves based on our looks, based on male or female, but the intention that God has for us is that we can embrace the differences, because he created us differently to show a different aspect of him, which means every culture, every religion, every country is actually a glimpse of a part of God because of his vastness. If he created all things and he created each person, that means he created you. And who am I to judge who you are and say that's not right just because I'm comfortable with who I am and what I look like? Right? Isn't that a
Right.
powerful way to look at it?
Yeah. So how about the fear, like, of the difference? So when you're different and I don't know that part, that makes us afraid of what we don't know, which for you, you've been blessed to be around that. What helps us to just get to think difference is not wrong, just get to know them a little bit more. Is there anything you can share about that, of just stepping out of our monoculture and our experience to reach out or to connect or to listen? Uh, and then we get afraid about that. What would you say about that?
I think the first thing is going to be honesty.
Mm,
To be able to recognize that something makes you uncomfortable. That's
yeah,
the first thing. And it's not recognize it for other people, it's recognize it for yourself. And that's where we talk about self-awareness. So every one of us gets uncomfortable around some type of people because we're not used to it. So imagine if I just took you and I put you in China. You don't speak the language. You
yeah,
have no, you don't know where you're going, right? Of course you'd be uncomfortable. You go to the restaurant, you don't even know what to eat. So you're uncomfortable in that culture. But if I
right,
put you in somewhere that maybe speaks your language and there's small differences, you probably find your way around.
right,
And so what happens is we have to be honest with ourselves. Okay, this culture makes me uncomfortable. I don't understand them fully. And you have to make the intentional choice to say, I want to learn. And, you know, I think it's a beautiful thing when you are, or you have an opportunity to connect with someone of a different culture. Let's say you recognize that, okay, this person makes me uncomfortable because we can't communicate. What I'm trying to say to them, they don't understand. Sometimes it's language barrier, but sometimes it's just a different way of looking at the world. So that person that you're bumping heads with, or you're like, oh, I don't like them. We have to be able to acknowledge for ourselves and be honest. I am uncomfortable with this person, and ask yourself why. Why
wow.
am I uncomfortable? You know? And
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times, this is one of the secrets. A lot of times people don't understand that the way that you feel is an indicator. So if I have a reaction to someone and I'm like, oh, this person doesn't like me, there's something in me that's being triggered by that person.
Mm,
So if you take the chance to acknowledge that and then look at myself and say, what is wrong with me? Why am I reacting this way to this person? You'll start to learn about yourself.
right, right.
So if someone is very confident and very direct, and I'm like, oh, I don't like that person. She always just tells the truth, you know? She's
Yeah.
always so blunt. But there's something about me that I need things to be delivered in a soft way. Why?
Mm,
That I need things to be sent in a message that I can, you know, why can't I take the truth? Or is something that they're saying
yeah.
hard for me to accept?
Mm,
And so these are things that we do in counseling, right? A lot of times conflict happens because we
yeah.
don't understand. We're speaking two different languages. And you go to a therapist so that they can help you translate.
Okay, gotcha.
Translate the behavior, right?
Yeah,
Man, my
yeah,
mom said this. Man, my kid did this. We're
yeah.
trying to help you translate what happened so you can understand them and then move forward in that relationship.
I kind of want to go back to kids and, like, what do you tell them? What do you tell them when they're seeing the violence and the tension and they don't understand why all this happens and they are afraid to get out? How do you explain to them? What do you tell them?
Well, the Bible says you should train up a child in the way they should go, and when they grow old, they will not depart from it. And I want you to think about that like a tree. If you wanted to change the direction of a tree, you don't do it when it's fully grown because the trunk is already established. You can't bend it. But if you were to take it as a young sprout, right? And to
Right.
deal with that and to mold it and to shape it and to angle it and tie things around it, right? You could shift the way that tree will grow.
Yes.
And when it grows old, it can't depart from it because it's already been put in that direction. Sometimes you see trees that have grown with a fence inside, and you're like, how did that even happen? Because it was done when it was young. And now, when it's grown, how do you change that? You have to cut off the whole trunk, right? Sometimes they
Right.
got to cut the fence in order to change it. But here's the
Yes.
thing, you can't change it. You're just cutting the tree. At that point, it's already done, right? And
Yes.
so what we have to do is train our children now. That means you plant into them, you water them with truth, with what the Bible says, with how do you deal with something you don't understand. You teach them, what does this mean? You teach them the perspectives. And that goes back to what we mentioned in the beginning about having open conversation. I'll say this, that sometimes there are cultural biases based on history.
Mm-hmm.
And so even within my own cultures when I was younger, there's a natural tendency to say, why do you like that? Why are you friends with that person? And I'm like, why? I like them. Yeah, but that person is this culture. And automatically they're already saying this person is bad,
Mm.
or you shouldn't associate with this person because they're bad.
Mm.
And the reason, I would come to find out later, is because of their history. Some cultures have had slavery or have had oppression based on skin color, and sometimes based on social status, based on money, class. And so I won't go into the specifics, but the people that understand their culture will know what I'm talking about and how we've divided ourselves within our cultures. But the main point then here is to talk to your children about what is happening, the injustices that they see, and talk to them about both sides, the perceived right and wrong. Talk about
Mm-hmm.
both sides. And then you're able to teach them, because at the
Right.
end of the day, there is no right answer. If there was a right answer, politics would have already solved all these problems. We wouldn't have to talk about this right now. But society is made up of individuals, and it's made up of families. And the stronger our family units are, the stronger our nation will be.
Wow, well said. Let me talk to anybody who is joining us right now, and you may have questions of what we are saying. Feel free to ask. Feel free to just post those questions in the comments. And we are so glad that you're joining us and that you have questions. And we will be here. Landre will be here, John or myself. Just post some of those questions in the comments, and we'll respond to that. Let's talk about families that are different. They are family, but even within the family, they have different cultures within, maybe cross-cultural, multiracial families where there could be someone willing to help or to navigate the differences so that they can help one another. Can you talk to that?
Well, I want to say first that remember I said earlier about how culture is a different aspect of God. And so if we are talking about a Christian household, then culture shouldn't really be a factor. Because when you define yourself, when you say, I am a Christian, it's not, I'm a Black Christian, I'm a white Christian, I'm an Indian Christian. That should never be the first thing you say. We don't divide ourselves by culture. We are Christians. And Christian means that you are an example, a replica of Christ. So your standard is not to be a Christian, right? Or a Black Christian, which means you're putting your culture above your spirituality. So what becomes your standard? Is your standard white culture? Is your standard Black culture? Or is your standard Christianity? And that's the first thing that we have to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So within your family, what is the standard first? Because sometimes we can adjust for a standard. I know I can talk about it this way, that sometimes if someone comes from a African American, Black American culture, when they go to a job interview, they feel like they have to act that white American accepted way. So when I go to this job interview, I have to talk this way. And yes, there's a level of honesty, respect, courtesy, professionalism, understood. But I'm talking about some of the ways that we communicate, the different ways we express ourselves. I can't do that when I come into this culture. A better example is on our job interview, we're all on our best behavior. But when you're in this workplace, why do I feel like I have to change who I am? Aside from being professional, but changing who I am to fit into this culture. And that's where the problem comes in. So if I have a family that has multiple cultures, and when I'm around them, I feel like I have to be this. And that can happen in many cultures. I've experienced even friendships where someone was born into a family that has two different cultures. Mm-hmm. And when they visit mom's family, they're this way. When they visit father's family, they're this way. Because the culture is the first thing. But Christ should be our first standard. And so regardless of what you're doing with either side of your family, the first thing should be that I'm an example of our Father. Amen? Now, outside of that, from outside of the Christian perspective, it goes back to that understanding and embracing. And sometimes that can be very difficult, though. I don't want to make this sound easy just by saying, well, we have to have conversations and talk. Sometimes it's very difficult because that other side that maybe doesn't understand you, because there's a culture that we lean toward. So I'll share for myself that I am Trinidadian Pakistani and I look Indian. Many times people will just say, "Are you Indian?" And then I'll say no, because I don't know anything about that side of my family. Because of my parents' separation, I didn't have an experience growing up with them. I don't know any of the language. I didn't really understand, and they're actually Muslim. So I didn't understand any of that. And so I can't connect with someone on that level. But if you now lean toward the other side, the Trinidadian West Indian side of me, that's family. I have a lot of friends. My old church family was all Jamaican. And so it's like I connect with the Caribbean side on a deeper level. So if you put me now with one side of the family and the other side of the family, there's one I'm more comfortable with naturally. Mm-hmm. And so we can have that within ourselves. When we have a family that's two sides, we're going to lean toward one that we're more comfortable with. And sometimes people feel like the other side doesn't understand me and they won't accept me. And that can happen. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that that's their perspective and not to take it personal. We can get very hurt because we feel like they don't understand me, or they're neglecting me, or they are pushing me away. But it's about the love of Christ in us and the love of ourselves, the love of our families, because love is unconditional. So real love would say, you know what, even if they don't understand me, even if we can't find that middle ground, even if they're saying these things about me, I'm still going to be patient. I'm still going to be kind. I'm still going to be understanding, right?
Right.
In order to foster relationship and not to close those doors. Another part is that sometimes we are in someone's life to help them see another side. So even if the side of my family doesn't understand me, and we may always butt heads, but I'm supposed to give them my perspective, and I'm supposed to learn from them too. Many times we try to impose on others, but we're not trying to understand them, and we should reap what we want to sow. Or we should sow what we want to reap, rather. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? Many
Right.
times we try to reap what we want to sow.
Yes. Yes.
So we have to first give what we want to receive.
Yeah.
You want to be understood, you want to be loved, you want to be heard. Well, give that first. And as long as you do that, you try that, I'm sure that there'll be some kind of response. And the other side is for those families, for those cultures, for those people that feel like they're constantly battling this family issue, they're constantly fighting to be heard or understood. That's where counseling comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are going to be difficult people that will never understand you, and you have to understand and
Mm-hmm.
accept that at some point so that you can release yourself and move
Yeah.
forward. Many times people stay in bondage because they want to hold on to that relationship so bad, but they don't realize that it's limiting them because they're in unforgiveness, they're bitter, they're resentful, and your mom, your dad, your cousin, your sister is moving on with their life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's the point where I would really encourage that person. And if that's you I'm talking to today, I would encourage you to reach out for help. And it's not a bad thing. Every leader, every president, every business owner has a council, not just one. He has a board of 10 people with 10 perspectives so he
Yeah.
can make one decision. How much more do we need in our own lives?
Mm.
We need someone with wisdom to speak into our life and help us navigate situations. And that is what counseling is.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that and sharing that and encourage us, man, and our community that there's no shame to reaching out and say, I need help. Quickly talk about self-hatred. There's those of us that have been on that side to a point where we believed the rejection and the feeling of being hated until we
Mm.
hate ourselves and we treat each other like that, and it's become just part of the trauma and a part of the community. What help us deal with that?
Absolutely. That's such a deep topic. And I think that would even be another conversation. If you
Yeah.
would have me back, we could have a whole hour just
Sure.
on that topic.
Yes.
It's absolutely important that we understand our own view of ourself, our self-identity, our self-worth is going to impact everything in our life,
Mm-hmm.
how we relate to others and how they see and relate to us. So in terms of the relationships and the culture, sometimes I'll share for myself that I told you I wasn't really connected with that Indian side of my family. And so there was a season of my life where I would get frustrated and
Mm-hmm.
I would get upset that people were like, oh, you're Indian. And I'd be like, no,
Mm.
straight no. And then I had to look at that. Why? Because I didn't feel connected and I didn't understand that side of me. And there was a season where I started to reach out to that side of my family to understand them, to build relationship, to get to know them and have an opportunity to see that side of me. And it impacts the way you look at yourself
Mm-hmm.
and how you view yourself. Because now, even though I know that that's not the side of my culture that I most ascribe to, now I'm not offended by it. Now I can understand it and I can embrace that and say, yes, I am a multicultural person, right? And so
Right.
when it comes in that you're hating that I'm this, and sometimes it comes out in ways where we start to pick on our beauty. I don't like my hair this way.
Mm.
I don't like my lips this way. I don't like my eyes this way. But where is that standard coming from?
Yeah.
Where is your measuring stick? Because many of us are using society, Instagram, whatever it is, to impose on ourselves. And we put the pressure on ourselves
Yeah.
by what we see.
So where do we get that ability to overcome? You say it and you say it so well, like help somebody who is stuck, who just don't know how to get to that place where we can accept ourselves and accept the difference.
The first thing is renewing your mind. And how I can talk so confidently about this is because I've also gone through that process.
Yeah.
You can't give something you don't have for yourself, right? And so I'm able to give this understanding because I've walked it myself, to understand what it takes to love yourself fully for who you are. You have to go through the process. You have to acknowledge those areas that are hard for you. Why does this upset me? Why is this something I don't like about myself? And then you have to find the beauty in it. You have to find the positives in it. And sometimes we can do that by just spending time. I would encourage someone that feels stuck to spend time with themselves, ask these questions. And if they're not able to answer that, because sometimes we can say, I don't like this part of me because it reminds me of this culture, or because I always got picked on when I was a kid, or
Yeah.
because this is the standard of beauty and I don't fit it in this way. And then you try to get to, well, how do I accept it? And maybe sometimes your answer is, I don't.
Yeah.
And I can't. And so then you have to decide, am I going to be hindered by this? Now, is this going to be something that I'm insecure and I hate about myself? Or you get someone else that can help you break out of that mindset. When you feel stuck, I think it's because you try to go through that process, but you can't get through to the end. So when we feel stuck, it's like, I acknowledge this, I see this,
Yeah.
but I don't know what to do. And so if that's you, if you feel like, I don't know what to do about this insecurity, I don't know what to do about this thing I hate about myself, I don't know what to do about this thing I want to change, but no matter what I try, it's not changing. That's the point that you're going to need someone else in your life that you trust, that can speak into you and talk to you about how beautiful you are. And talk to you about, why you're insecure about that thing. You have to have someone in your life that you can trust. And so if we have a family member, if we have a friend that can help us get through that process, wonderful. Take advantage of that. And it's going to help build a deeper relationship with that person and help you overcome. But sometimes we don't have that person. And if you don't, that's where it comes back to finding someone that you can fellowship with in your church, that can pray you through it, or getting a counselor that can help you renew the mind. Because if we don't change what's going on here, we'll never change what's going on here.
Wow, those are really, really good points, and they segue easily with our concluding here to say, if you have someone or if you don't have someone, we as a church are here for you. Safe Harbor is here for you. We have their phone number if you want to reach them. It's 410-893-4600. We have groups, we have communities. We are encouraging everyone to stay engaged with groups, with the service. We still have online services that you can attend. We have groups that are on Zoom or physical. If you want to meet, you have what you need right now just to stay engaged. Just don't battle it alone. And above all, Jesus is with you where you are. He's with us all the time. You never totally alone. Thank you so much, Sena, for these great words. And I hope you can come back and we can explore some more.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. May God bless you. And for everyone that was here, thank you for listening, and stay connected. Take care.
Thank you, and God bless you.